Welcome back to Reach. This portion of the series is all about communication. And for this video, I would like to start with a question. Do your next door neighbors know that you are serving your community by sitting on your board or council? If yes, that's great. And if not, you should ask yourself why. In this module, we will be discussing communication tools that you and your organization can leverage to engage better with your community, and tools that you can use to work and connect as a board or a council more efficiently. A communications officer's job is to represent the feelings and voice of the people. What is important to your neighbors? Have you asked? In the world of communications, there are many directions one could go. In this module, we are going to talk about the tools that will help you reach the world and internal communication tools and strategies that your board can implement to help keep the structure and build accountability. In a previous video, I mentioned succession, and to me, this is all about communication. For the boards I've been a part of, I've always tried to set out a clear end date and develop a comms toolkit for smooth handoffs. I suggest neighborhood councils, chambers of commerce boards, and other community organizations implement similar planning. There is so much institutional knowledge created while serving these communities and on these councils, and the community is best served if that knowledge can be retained. So, we'll be talking about succession planning and building your comms toolkit. I will go over the rule of 7, and you will begin thinking and acting more like a marketer, attracting people to participate in your meetings, attend your events, and become active in your community. We'll talk about watering holes and why they are important. You'll learn what a Zoom bomb is and how to avoid them. And by the end of this thing, we will get your brand, your group, your club, and your neighborhood council to be where your neighbors are. As always, be sure to check out the description of this video for additional links and learning materials. I will continue to add articles and tools to keep this course relevant as new technologies and ideas become available. There will be more along the way, so let's begin. Now, a considerable part of the job of a communications chair or an outreach person, or whatever you happen to call your role, is getting your brand to where your neighbors and constituents are. In previous videos, we have discussed many of the most important social media sites that you should be parking your brand on and building out content calendars for. But this is just a start. To best communicate with your community, you will need to find the watering holes and bring your brand to them. But what is a watering hole, you ask? When I talk about watering holes, I'm not talking about bars, and I'm not talking about ponds where animals go to drink. I'm talking about the everyday places in your community where large groups are already gathering. Please take a moment, pause this video, and build a list of watering holes that your organization could reach out to this week. To start this process, I suggest creating buckets or verticals to create shorter lists within. Something like this. Churches. Any and all denominations within your given service area. Businesses. Start with the most prominent buildings and work down from there. Business groups. This includes chambers, business improvement districts, neighborhood watch groups. You get the point. Schools. This can be public, private, and all ages, from preschool to high school. Sports organizations, hobby groups, the lists continue. Okay, now pause this video and go do the work. Now that you have your watering holes to begin your outreach, it's time to start thinking like a marketer. Question: how many times a month do your neighbors hear the words neighborhood council, or chamber of commerce, or the name of your arts or cultural organization? Enter the rule of 7. The rule of 7 is a marketing maxim that originated in the movie industry back in the 1930s. The studio bosses discovered that they could spend a certain amount of money on advertising and promotion to compel someone to see one of their movies. The rule of 7 states that a prospect needs to hear the advertiser's message at least 7 times before buying that product or service. That was back when there weren't that many options for people to see ads, and it was novel when they did see an ad or hear a commercial. So hitting that sweet 7 mark wasn't too tricky. In the 2020s, people have seen so many ads that our eyes and our minds have become trained not to see them. Without a clearly defined strategy to map out how you'll touch these prospects at least 7 times, your success odds are pretty slim. You might need more than those 7 times to be heard through all the clutter and hot button news cycles. This means what is said in your message matters. Not all touch points are created equal. To truly think like a marketer, you need to think creatively on how you can weave these 7 touch points across your various watering holes, your organization's social media footprint, and word of mouth and digital sharing. Go back to educate, training, and homework. Set them all up. Then, Start producing and capturing engaging content. If you don't have a minimum of a placeholder piece of content on the leading platforms, you're leaving people out, and you are missing opportunities to hit that magic number 7. Other tools you may consider using that aren't social media include telephone town halls or voice broadcasts. This is where people call in to listen to your voice. These can be live or recorded, and for this one, I like teletownhall.com. Text messaging is another great way to engage with your board and your community as a whole. The stats behind texting are big. Over 6 billion text messages are sent every day in the US alone. That's 2.2 trillion a year. To get in on this in a scalable way, you're going to want to check out Twilio and Textedly. If you're already working with or plan on working with the Web Corner for your website, tell them that you'd like to integrate the Twilio Messages API. If you're going about it ad hoc, start with Textedly. Text messaging services will give your organization another means of building connections and staying on top of mind with your community. These communications can be automated and they can be activated on demand in case of event or emergency needs. For voice-only meetings and communications, there are dozens of services for conference calls. I still use my free conferencecall.com line, but there are other cooler ones out there now like uberconference.com as well. Depending on your budget, there is something out there for everybody. In the video conference world, there are a handful of platforms that I suggest familiarizing yourself with. The top 4 are Zoom, Google Hangouts, Circle, and Around. Now these types of video conferencing tools all have their own sets of tools to keep meetings safe and secure, but I feel compelled to point out the waiting room function. After creating a meeting, passwords and pins will become available to invite people to join. At this point, you should create a waiting room where people with approved credentials will be placed before officially being admitted into your waiting room. This waiting room is just one of the steps to keep your meetings free from Zoom bombing or a spam attack on your underprotected meeting place. Here are 7 more ways to ensure your meetings are as secure as possible. Number 1, update your apps often to keep up to date on security settings. Use unique IDs and passwords for your various meetings. Make sure only the hosts can share the screen. Create invite-only sessions when appropriate. Lock your meeting sessions once they start. Disable cameras and media sharing in the chat. And manage who can chat and when. These platforms are often updated, and I will keep updating the description of these videos with new links and tools to utilize these services best. Team management tools are next on the list, and if you're not using Google Suite, what are you using? Seriously, I'd like to know. For an organization with multiple email accounts and users sharing content, Google Suite is a great place to start. I use Google Drive every day with my clients, boards, and even various family members for sharing photo needs. Dropbox.com and Box.net are also fantastic services, and you should probably sign up for a free account. These platforms only start charging once you store large amounts of data, so it's best to have access to all of them and then pick your favorite. The app Slack offers teams a platform to share ideas, files, and conversations in a searchable format. Public channels allow team members to communicate without using email or group text messages and to keep all correspondence for projects in a single place. Public channels are open to everyone in the workplace, while private channels allow for private conversations between smaller subgroups. This is an excellent tool for project managing events, product launches, and planning for the future while working apart. Slack is available as a mobile app, desktop app, and accessible from a website to ensure anyone and everyone who needs access can access it. Asana is another tool designed to improve team collaboration and work management. It helps teams manage projects and tasks in one place. Organizations can create projects, assign work to teammates, specify deadlines, and communicate about tasks directly in Asana. Asana simplifies team-based work management, helping teams organize, track, and manage their work. Asana's basic plan is free, with a handful of add-ons available as you scale in team size and need. There are also links below with more details. Now that you have a lay of the land in terms of what tools are available, let's talk briefly about how you can be utilizing them. As I've mentioned throughout the course, creating archives, specifically video archives, helps share knowledge that will last for future generations. And sharing this creative content widely is an excellent way to grow your committee numbers and start activating more people to join your organization. Opening your meetings and events to more people with tools like Zoom and Box ensure that you are reaching as wide of a net as possible. This work will bring in new members, increase committee sizes, and foster more activity. Once you have upgraded your organization's communications and outreach platforms, you should pause and plan for the future. I suggest keeping a comms toolkit document handy on your computer. This can be a Google Drive document, Word document, or notes, whatever you're most comfortable with. And use this space to save all of the URLs and login credentials for your growing digital footprint. Linked below are some great password managers and generators too. At this point, the last place to look for your neighbors is going next door. So do yourself a favor, go knock on a door and ask them how your organization can help them today. You'll be surprised how far that will take you. Thanks for your time today. Next up is the homework section. Enjoy. Oh, and don't forget to schedule your Communicate call with me. See you in the next video.